The notion that hundreds of thousands of people can exist without almost any rights in some of the worst circumstances that we've documented in the last 50 years is simply intolerable.
It is perhaps one of the world's most secret prison camps.
The outside world certainly doesn't know what's going on, and very little from the inside comes out. The very little that has come out paints a very disturbing picture.
70 miles from the North Korean capital, Pyongyang.
So this camp is located in a series of steep river valleys.
Officials call it Kwanli-so, or Re-Education Center, number 15. But those who languish in here know it as Yodok.
The idea that a country can treat its own citizens this poorly, on such a systematic level, is simply unacceptable.
Very little is known about Yodok because very few people have left it. Yodok is thought to hold some 50,000 North Korean prisoners. Now, new satellite images obtained by the human rights group Amnesty International show that Yodok is growing. Amnesty compared the latest pictures with satellite imagery taken 10 years ago. There are more prisoner housing facilities, more guard units, additional agricultural farming areas.
There's also a fish farm that has actually grown slightly in size since 2001. And finally, up at the very top of our image is a mining camp, and there's actually a gold mine that's located there.
The regime has repeatedly denied the existence of Yodok.
The fact that we would have to rely on satellite imagery just to dispel the government's assertions that these camps don't exist is testament really to the scale of the human travesty that might be going on inside.
And Amnesty says what is going on inside Yodok is nothing short of hellish.
These are places where, based on what we understand, probably 2 out of 5 prisoners die, often due to malnutrition. Food is very scarce. They work at least 10 hours a day for 7 days a week.
Yodok is divided into 2 areas, the total control zone, where prisoners are never released without any proper trials, and the revolutionary zone, where conditions are more lenient.
But in both areas, you're treated like a slave. Even animals are treated better.
Kang Chol-hwan was only 9 when he and his family were sent to Yodok prison camp for political crimes.
We had no food. We ate anything we could get our hands on. Rats, snakes, frogs, insects. We just had to find a way to survive.
CBN News showed him the images of the camp he once lived in.
Even though it happened a long time ago, when I look at the satellite pictures, I can still remember everything I saw and endured.
He's now concerned about what he sees in the new pictures.
The camp definitely looks bigger. For example, these new buildings for prison guards weren't there before. I can only assume that that means there are more prisoners being held and therefore more security is needed.
Kang spent 10 years in Yodok before escaping to China in 1992. He wrote about his experiences in the aquariums of Pyongyang. He was the first person to reveal to the world the existence of the Yodok prison camp.
The thing I remember the most about in the camp is how the prison guards would kill people for no reason. I witnessed many people being executed.
Kang now lives in South Korea. He's a journalist for one of the country's largest newspapers. Reports from inside Yodok are hard to come by. In 2004, a Japanese television station aired what it claimed was footage from inside the camp. But Kang and others who've managed to escape testify to stories of torture, starvation, and routine executions.
On July 22, 1999, I was arrested on suspicion of spying by the National Security Agency.
Jong Young-il also spent time in Yodok. He was one of the few prisoners released, but only after being severely tortured. While he was in the Yodok labor camp, Mr. Kang says the prison guards performed a particularly harsh procedure on him. It's called the pigeon torture. In essence, the prisoner is held from the wall with his hands tied behind his back, and he's put in this position for days on end.
This happened repeatedly. It's like you're hanging upside down. Your muscles tense up and your chest sticks out like a bird. I thought I was going to die.
Amnesty International believes several other labor camps in addition to Yodok are operating in remote parts of the country.
We understand that there are at least 6 political prisoner camps, and these are vast areas. These are huge areas, and that there's, we think, a total population of around 200,000 people.
Jung Sung-san has spent the past few years highlighting the plight of his countrymen. He escaped from North Korea in 1995. He also did time in a labor camp. In 2006, he directed The Yodok Story, a musical drama about life in North Korea's labor camps.
My father was stoned to death in a labor camp, so to honor his life, I decided to show people what life is like in these camps. The world has to realize that there is a country today that tortures its people. Something has to be done to put an end to this regime.
That may not happen anytime soon. North Korea's dictator has reportedly tapped his 27-year-old son to take over next year. And reports are that human rights conditions are only getting worse as the regime makes the leadership transition. George Thomas, CBN News, Seoul, South Korea.